The lead gen brand HomeBuddy just sold for $190 million. Guys, this is the potential of lead generation. And obviously these guys are pretty big. That's a big purchase price, $190 million. But how do we sell for $19 million? How do we sell for $1.9 million? I mean, for a lot of people, that's life-changing money. I'm going to talk about that today. What made HomeBuddy so valuable and why, they were able to sell for that much money. Let's take a quick look at them, and then I'll talk about some of the reasons why I think, again, why they sold. And I mean, some of them are kind of obvious. And then I'll talk about how we can implement this in our business. Again, whether we're lead generation or just building a brand in general. This is the true potential of this business model though. All right, so we've got the HomeBuddy site here. And this thing, I mean, for this, the site itself is pretty basic. We've got a lot of templates that look a lot like this in Leadbase Pro, which you can join for $99 a month, guys. Link in the description. Join 360 other business owners and lead generators and cancel anytime. There's lots of good stuff in there. Lots of weekly calls too, guys. Okay, so pretty straightforward site. These guys have just built a machine, and that's why they were able to be purchased for $190 million. I'll go over some of the specifics of the sale. I think it was actually 115 plus 75 and some other incentives over time as they hand this business off. But the brand itself, I mean, sure, HomeBuddy, great name. This guy's pretty simple. They obviously work in a ton of different home service niches. This is similar to House or Angie's List, or what's that other one? I don't know. There's a lot of brands like this. This isn't crazy innovative or special. This is guys and gals putting in work to build out systems and to be able to sell to a lot of different clients. I believe they have 2,000 or so buyers of leads. And so they've got, showers. You want to walk-in shower, walk-in tubs. Walk-in shower doesn't make sense. Walk-in tubs, stair lifts. So they've got a ton of different niches worked out. I'm sure they've got really strong SEO with this site, and they've really built a recognizable brand. And I think that's what really set them apart. They're a Swiss-US company, which is interesting. $150 million in cash at closing and $75 million in additional incentives. Pretty crazy that you can build a lead generation brand that could sell for this much. And I have a feeling that they're pretty lean in terms of their team as well. So again, how do we build a lead generation brand that sells for, a fraction of this cost, for a couple $1 million? It's actually, I wouldn't say it's easier than you think, but at least the way to get there is actually pretty straightforward. So let's talk about that. So as I said, Quinn Street, which is a digital marketing and lead generation company, purchased HomeBuddy for $190 million, $115 cash closing, $75 million in post-closing earnouts over 4 years, investing from Canada. Interesting. So business and strategic fit. HomeBuddy, obviously, again, they generate leads in the home service niche. They focus on high intent homeowner leads for contractors. They've built out They build out a big network of buyers here, and they have an auction-based lead system. So they essentially send all the leads into a system, and then buyers are kind of bidding different amounts for different zip codes and stuff like that. They've really built out a marketplace here, and that's the first reason why they are so valuable. Like I said, they also have over 2,000 professionals spanning 30 plus trades buying their leads. So the first reason these guys are so valuable is obviously because they have a big buyer network. If you just have a few buyers, which is closer to what we are, we have a couple buyers in each niche. We're not going to sell for $200 million. But if you can diversify your clientele, that is something that is going to make your revenue a lot more predictable if you're looking to get acquired as a lead generation business. Obviously, that comes with having to probably hire salespeople and managers and stuff like that. If you could build out a lead generation brand with 10 to 20 consistent clients, you could have a multi-million dollar purchase price just from that. Obviously, if you have predictable revenue from a year-over-year standpoint. Really, again, what these guys have done too is building this auction system. That's very easy for people to come in and purchase leads. We talk about in Leadbase how to actually go and have more of a one-on-one relationship with your clients. Down the road, I know this is something that a lot of people have done. A lot of people, even in Leadbase Pro, actually build out their own marketplace so people can come in and place bids on leads. You can actually do this with Lead Prosper as well. You have more of like a productized lead service rather than a client and lead generation agency relationship. You have more of like, hey, come buy some leads, go in the marketplace. It gives some legitimacy. There's repeatability to that. You lose that kind of face-to-face interaction that we have as lead generators. So obviously these guys have kind of gone above and beyond and built out their lead generation to kind of the next level of becoming a super legitimate business. But again, something to consider. The more kind of like base of clients you have that are consistent, and kind of building that marketplace and productizing your service could make you more valuable in the long run. This is something that we don't talk about because it doesn't make sense to start with this. But if you've been in a niche for a year and you're really growing, this is where you can start to think about how to expand, how to get more clients by again, productizing, doing kind of reverse auctions and stuff like that. That's going to be very easy to sell people because it's like, hey, you can come and you can purchase leads via an auction system. You're going to look very legitimate doing that, and that can be a way to scale. The other reason that they're so valuable is they generated $140 million in revenue, in 12 months, which is crazy. 30 million of adjusted EBITDA in the first full year post-close covered. They're making a ton of money. That's obviously going to make them very valuable. So they got, I guess their valuation was essentially about 1 times their revenue, which is interesting, but $30 million in EBITDA, which is crazy. Is it EBITDA or EBITDA? Or does it matter? Because it's not even a word. It's an acronym. So $30 million, crazy amount of revenue. And again, they've built this because they have such a network of buyers. They're doing so much volume across all those different industries. We tell you guys it's very important you focus on one niche to start. But if you're in a home service, you can think about the future. Let's say you do your first 6 months in roofing and then you're like, hey, I'm crushing it. You build that database of roofing leads, like you've got 10,000 roofing leads. You can start to cross-sell those leads on different things. They own a home. You could sell them solar, HVAC, siding, decks, basement waterproofing. All this can start to cross-sell. Eventually, you've got 100,000 leads and 500,000 leads. This is something we're doing now. We've got several 100,000 leads in our database. We're cross-selling different offers. We're building a more legitimate brand that people trust and come back to and make multiple purchases with. Because let's say I got my roofing lead for $30 and I sold it for $60 off the bat. I've paid that $30 and now I own that data. If I can sell that roofing lead again for a deck and I get paid another $50, that was $50 that I made and it cost me $0 essentially. So that's where you really start to build a really strong brand that you can sell one day when you start to build out that database and work it properly. Strategic rationale I thought was interesting. Home improvement market is large and growing with significant annual homeowner spending. So yeah, obviously the market is growing. I think what these guys have done well is they've built a brand that's, I don't know if it's more trustworthy than the Angie's Lists of the world, but it came in with like a newer look, a more approachable look than I think some of the other businesses out there. And a lot of those big kind of behemoths like the Angie's Lists and the Houses of the world probably get complacent. These guys came in, they do paid ads, but they also have SEO presence. I'm sure they have a very strong Google Maps presence. So they're all encompassing. That's another thing that's going to make you very valuable. Again, this is all kind of long-term thinking for your lead generation business. If you're only running Meta ads and maybe some Google ads and you're a year into your business, it's another thing you can consider, not off the bat, but a year into the business or, 6 months to 18 months, whatever. Now it's like, hey, how do I actually grow this SEO? How do I actually, set up Google Map profiles? How do I actually create an all-encompassing brand? That's where I think you go from the, $1 to $2 million a year to $10 million a year is building a brand that's not just on paid advertising, but you actually start to build it out into different areas and start to build something that people are actually going to recognize one day instead of just having a scrappy funnel. That's not easy to do. And you can also be building other brands, startup brands in the process of that. But if you have something that's really hitting and you want to sell it for $10 million one day, you really have to think about, again, SEO, Google Maps, all these different things. That's why when we sold our first brand for, it's like $700,000 US, which was really cool at the time. It isn't a crazy life-changing amount of money for most people. Still helped me buy a house and was a great payout. The reason we didn't sell for more than that is because we didn't have an SEO presence with our first brand. We sold this back or started this brand back in like 2018 and sold it to a client. We wanted to get out of the niche. Long story. You can go watch the video on my YouTube channel. We didn't have SEO presence. I would say we had a trusted brand, but we weren't really like remarketing to our leads. We didn't really build like this big strategic data company. We just had, paid advertising and a couple clients. And so we sold to one of our clients. And again, that's where I think, instead of selling for $700,000, we could have sold for, several $1 million if we actually focus on growing our brand in a few different areas. And so, like I said, these guys have a proven scalable revenue model, not just a scrappy funnel. They have 2,000 clients. They've got a real recognizable consumer brand. I actually never really heard of them too much before this. So I'm curious to know, I guess in terms of recognizable. It's probably people coming back and making, multiple connections with HomeBuddy over time. They're emailing, they're texting, they're advertising across all platforms. Maybe they're even running like, ads on streaming platforms. I don't know. There's so many different ways you can kind of be all encompassing and building a true brand as opposed to just having a funnel that people see once. That's something they obviously did very well. And they have a deep buyer network and infrastructure, which is really hard to rebuild. I think this is going to become easier with AI over the next few years. And again, we have people in Leadbase literally doing this, building these marketplaces for leads. And there's a couple different ways to do that. It's not something we have in place right now. Besides using Lead Prosper. But yeah, guys, I just thought this would be an interesting concept to go over as you think about really, maybe you're 6 months or a year into growing your lead generation business, you're making some decent money, but you want to think about, hey, how do I exit this one day for, a life-changing amount of money? For most of us, I think if we sold a lead gen business for a couple $1,000,000, that would be pretty sweet. And so hopefully these concepts are helpful. Hopefully this example is helpful. Go and check out HomeBuddy. I think there's a lot of examples that we can look at on their website, obviously. Let's check out their Facebook profile, actually, and just see if we can see their ads. Go to ad library. And again, I don't think these guys are like, in terms of advertising and branding, it's not like they're doing anything that different or that crazy. They're testing a ton of different stuff, I assume. Like, how many ads are in here? 440 different ads just in Meta. So they've got a lot of basement waterproofing, foundation, stairs, bathtubs, roofing, a lot of really pretty simple, straightforward ads. Not like these guys are doing anything that crazy, but I'm sure they've tested like crazy and they're a recognizable brand and they're cross-selling. So all those things really add up. And yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope that you learned something here. If you see any other cool news in the lead gen space, let me know. I want to do some more like news updates videos like this, but stay tuned for more. Guys, lots of big plans coming this year. Join Leadbase Pro for $99 a month. Get access to multiple weekly calls with myself and my business partner and other professionals. A new course that we're building, all with AI, how to build your lead generation business with AI. Yeah, guys, it's going to be fun. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye.